The first guest speaker tonight is one of our great friends of the Niagara County Democratic Committee and a great friend of Austin Tylec. She made a pretty big impact when she ran for mayor in Lockport a couple years ago, and she unseated a long line of Republicans that took care of business there. But guess what? She brought a lot of change to Lockport, and it's my honor to introduce the mayor of Lockport, Michelle Roman, to say a few words.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening. Michelle Roman. Thanks, Chris. I met Austin while we were both running, and he has made a big impact just as an alderman for North Tonawanda. And he and I have been communicating and trying to come up with ways to make positive change for not just our individual communities, but for Niagara County as a whole. And I'm very excited to be able to extend that partnership in the way of being mayors together. And so I am greatly endorsing Austin. I believe that Austin cares about the community over politics, the community over the power behind the politics. He's all about people and he's all about community, which is what I do as well. So thank you, Austin, for having me and having me speak.
We like political speeches to be short and sweet, so thank you so much. Although she's not really even a politician, she's just a good person. The next person I want to introduce, I'd be remiss if I didn't say a little bit about how I met Bill Conrad. I used to work for NYS in the teachers union, and one of the biggest activists, one of the people that I know the regional staff would call to do anything they asked, and that was Bill Conrad. One of the biggest supporters of organized labor in the New York State Assembly, a great representative to fill in the shoes of former Assemblyman Schimminger. Bill Conrad has picked up right where he left off, and we're so happy to have him. So please introduce, give a round of applause to Assemblyman Bill Conrad.
I don't know how you match that, Chris. It's a little too nice for me. I don't appreciate it. I'll be honest with you, I haven't spoken to a crowd this large, even in the New York State Assembly when you negotiate or debate a bill, maybe 150 people. This is way bigger. So Austin, kudos to you. Graduating class this large. Listen, I'm here to support Austin Tylec for mayor of North Tonawanda. He's a friend, he's a party person, but he's also a person that Tonawanda needs and deserves. All right, he's gone too long with this day in and day out of normal politics, things not getting done. I just want to talk about one story, and I think Austin will relate to this. Most recently, New York State, our good friend, the comptroller here, audited North Tonawanda's finances, and instead of pretending it was unfair and accurate, Austin pushed his colleagues in city government to heed its warnings. He proposed building an advisory committee with taxpayer representation to more closely monitor and guide entities' spending and saving. His colleagues' response to the idea, they publicly attacked him and shut down his prudent suggestion, deeming it barely worth a discussion. Most recently, as New York State Assemblyman, I learned that North Tonawanda was at risk of losing its AIM funding this year due to a clerical error, a clerical lapse. I immediately reached out to city officials to voice my solidarity with them and promise them, despite our political differences, despite them, I've been doing all I could to secure NT's rightful share of state aid. And I delivered on that promise. We went to work. But I would note that when I alerted NT's Republican leadership to the budgetary catastrophic issues that they were facing, I too was ridiculed. I was met with defenselessness, and Council President in the next meeting falsely claimed that I'd not heard a word from him when I was in the goddamn meeting with him. So, I know everybody wants to hear from Don Mapley, so I'm going to keep going. So Austin knows what a more inclusive, more representative government can better address the needs of all its citizens, not just the ones who agree with him. He knows that accountability and leadership is not only important, it is owed. He knows good government serves the people, and that's no place for ego or partisan games, and that's why I think, and I know, Austin Tylec is the best and the only choice for the next city mayor.
Let's give it up for Assemblyman Bill Conrad. He's fired up. You all should be fired up. If you're from Niagara County and you want change, you should be fired up too. And Austin represents that change, I promise you. So, I got one more big speaker that I'd like to introduce. He's the man in charge of your pension. He's the man in charge of retirements. I work for New York State, so he's in charge of my pension. But you know what? There's not one thing. I've talked to a lot of people around the state, and there's one thing everybody agrees on, is that Tom DiNapoli is their friend. He's a friend of labor. He's a friend of your neighbors, and that guy is looking after my pension and the finances of New York State. So I can assure you that when Tom DiNapoli is in the room tonight, you're in the right place. So, without further ado, our incredible New York State Comptroller.
Everybody else. This is the best MC I've been in the room with for a long time. Thank you to our Lockport mayor, Michelle Roman, doing a great job. Give her another round of applause. And Bill Conrad is off to an incredible start as your assembly representative, and he's going to be a great partner to the next mayor of North Tonawanda. Bill Conrad. I mean, isn't it great to be around people? And we don't have to have masks, but just in case, I had mine ready if I needed it, right? So this is going to be one of those political memorabilia collectible items. 30 years from now, if you save it, you can say, from Austin Tylec's mayoral campaign, I have a mask. And some of you have a t-shirt too. That may take 40 years to be worth something, but hold there, you got t-shirts. Hey, before I talk about Austin, how about giving it up for some great support that he gets from his mom and dad, who are the privilege to meet together. Thank you. So, Chris, I traveled from Long Island to get here. I can't be short, right? Because, you know, a few hundred miles, I got to do something when I talk about Austin. So some people ask me, when did I first meet Austin Tylec? Well, it was probably about 2.5 years ago, give or take. And it was at a Niagara County Democratic event. And folks would say, you got to meet this young guy. He's really, he had already been elected alderman. And they brought me over to him, and he said, Austin Tylec, this is Tom DiNapoli, New York State Comptroller. And I could tell you, he was so unimpressed and uninterested in meeting the New York State Comptroller. And I walked away and I said, how old is this guy? When did he get elected? I think he was 25 when you were elected? 24, 25, 26, doesn't matter. Lifetime elected. And I said, well, I was elected to the Board of Education at age 18. He is a late bloomer. I was the original young candidate in New York State. But I wanted to come here when Austin asked me because, all kidding aside, in the years that I've gotten to know him, I really do believe Austin Tylec is one of the best and brightest out there when you talk about the next generation of leadership all across New York State. You're lucky to have Austin Tylec right here. He really is the right person for the time that you're going through here in this community, beautiful community, North Tonawanda, and for the challenges that we're all facing across New York State. You know, the good news is obviously we're not wearing masks. From a health perspective, we're in much better shape than we were even a few months ago, let alone a year ago. From a financial point of view, tax revenue is up. Bill, you got $4 billion extra coming in than we had anticipated. Sales tax revenue up even higher than it was back in 2019, not just compared to a year ago when things were so difficult. So all that's good news, and a big game changer is the billions of dollars we got from Washington. And that's good for the state, but it's also good for all of our localities because some of that money is going to go to North Tonawanda and our cities, counties, county school districts all across New York State. And Chris, the pension fund had its best year on record, 33% positive return. So our workers and retirees, good news for you. But what it also means is that we have to be very, very careful and recognize that certainly that federal money is not going to be there forever. We have to plan smartly and spend that money wisely. And that's where it gets back to Austin's leadership as mayor of North Tonawanda. Bill Conrad said it very clearly. North Tonawanda has had some issues prior to the pandemic. And certainly our audit, and our audit is done by professional auditors, it's not a political document, made clear that the finances of the city of North Tonawanda needed to be improved, and that's putting it kindly. The budgets were not structurally balanced. There wasn't a multi-year financial plan. There wasn't a capital plan. There wasn't careful fiscal monitoring. And as Assemblyman Conrad said, the one person in elected office who stood up and said, we need to deal with this and not run away from it, was Alderman Austin Tylec. And I think that's I think it speaks to his approach to government, which is not to run away from issues, but in fact to confront them. He wanted to set up a fiscal committee to deal with those issues, and that didn't happen. But you know what? I've been following the work that he's been doing. He shares some ideas with me now and then, and what I love about Austin is that he's not afraid to tackle new ideas. He is very open and he listens to his constituents. So he knows that issues of the environment are very important, climate change. He wants to see North Tonawanda positioned to access all those grant programs that are coming out of Washington now with the Biden administration. That's forward thinking. He understands in the downtown here the importance of collaborating with small businesses. Small businesses is what we need to bring back our economy, not just in North Tonawanda, but all across New York State. He knows how important taxes are and how it's hurting people. He wants to do a pause on reassessment with residential homeowners. A novel idea, needs to be studied and looked at, but he's not afraid to tackle new ideas. And you just came up with this idea for this exchange zone, recognize that people are buying things in a different way. I never heard of an exchange zone until you suggested it. But what does this tell you? This is an individual who brings to his government service an openness and an accessibility, right, Chris? If you want to find Austin Tylec, you don't have to go hunting for him. You can call him up, you can send him a message on Facebook. He's there and he's responsive, and he's always open in any way, not just at the public meetings or all the public events he goes to. I've never seen anybody use social media more effectively than Austin Tylec to keep in touch with his constituents. And I think that's commendable because we live at a time where we must put a priority on openness in government, on transparency in government. Without that, you cannot have accountability. So, you know, right? So others have used the word, he's been an independent voice. And I think that's what you expected of him when he was elected Alderman-at-Large, the only one not in the same party as everybody else. But you know what? I reflect on, because I think he's had such an effective role as being the independent voice. Austin could have easily said, you know what? I'm going to run against Alderman-at-Large. I've got a great record. People understand you need another point of view every now and then. And my guess is, Austin, had you done it, you probably would have had a pretty easy re-election. And you know what he decided to do? He decided to take it to the next level. Instead of taking the easy way out, he said, you know what, we need some big changes in North Tonawanda. And the only way to achieve that is not by being an independent voice on the council. It really is to be the mayor. because the mayor sets the tone at the top of the organization. The mayor is the one who sets the agenda. The mayor is the one who is the voice, really, for the entire community. And I think that also speaks to the kind of commitment he has to the place where he grew up and where, obviously, generations of his family on both sides have resided. He has such tremendous pride in this community. He has such faith in the people of this community. He's willing to really take a chance. It's not easy to put yourself forward, especially for a higher office like mayor. But Austin has said, I'm ready to take on that challenge. And, you know, I think what he presents to you is a fascinating and wonderful, compelling combination for you to go out and tell all your friends and neighbors, whatever party they're in, that they should be voting for Austin Tylec. Because he's got experience, he's got knowledge, he's got credentials. All of that is someone who has served now for 4 years as an elected official. And you know what else he's got? He does have his youth. He's pushing 30, so he's not as young as everybody thinks. Let's be clear, right? Some of us remember we're not supposed to trust anybody over 30, so he's only got a few more months of that. But you know what he brings? He brings that vigor and that enthusiasm and that willingness to look at old issues in new ways that, frankly, the next generation of leadership always brings when you talk about having positive change. So to me, Austin is really the whole package to be a great mayor for this great, great city. But you know what? He's taken the chance. He's working hard. It's really up to all of you to make sure that he gets elected. This is not going to be an easy race. You know the history and the voting patterns in the city. And you may love Austin, and you may think everybody knows Austin, but I guarantee if with this great crowd and this great enthusiasm, we take it for granted, that's going to be a big mistake.
Get the vote out.
It's all get the vote out. And it starts with the Dems, it includes the unaffiliated, but don't leave out thinking Republicans, because there are thinking Republicans out there. And I'm so proud so many of our friends in Labor are here as well to support Austin. That is absolutely great. So, what I need from you as I wrap up, because then I get to call the guest of honor. I was stalling so he could collect his thoughts, you understand? Will you make a commitment to me that as much as we're enjoying this beautiful summer day, and as much as we're feeling great enthusiasm for Austin Tylec and his campaign, are you going to work hard, not just over the summer, but in those critical months and weeks in the fall as we head to election day? You saw what's been happening even on primary day. You never know what's on people's minds the day they go to vote. Are you going to make a commitment to go out there between now and election day, hit the pavement, knock on the doors, send out the literature, make sure everybody knows if you want to see positive change in North Tonawanda, you have to vote for Austin Tylec for mayor. Can I count on you to deliver on that? Yes? Okay. I think they mean it, Chris, right? So I'll tell you what, without further delay, I am very privileged with my Long Island accent. None of you made fun of me. Thank you. I'm very privileged to call forward the next mayor of the great city of North Tonawanda, the Honorable Austin Tylec.
Republicans for Tylec.
Whoa. This is fantastic. I'm still catching my breath. It was like a huge storm of people. I cannot thank all of you enough. So thank you so much for coming out here. It's hotter in here than outside, I think, at this point. But thank you. And of course, I'm incredibly impressed with you on a regular basis, and I certainly appreciate you coming all the way from New York City. So thank you. And I think we have to take a moment to appreciate the fact that we're all in a room together, right? And a lot of us don't have to wear masks, and it's just fantastic. We lost a lot of great people in the past year or so, and we should really appreciate what we have, moving forward in the future and look forward to it. So, something to think about. And of course, I'm going to do thank yous as well. I want to start off with Frankie Primos. How great is Frankie Primos? And of course, Jim Manno. He is a local antique guy. His mom here in our Webster area. So thank you, Jay, wherever you are in the back, I'm sure working, so thank you. And of course, today's event would not be possible without a great friend, a recent friend, Christelle Prince over here, and Gail Tylec in the back over there standing. So thank you so much for putting that together. And you may have noticed a couple signs outside in North Tonawanda, right? Just a handful of them. But in reality, we ended up getting 500 signs and continue to get people to sign up. And it's all thanks to people like Mike Marach over here. We have John Fryer, Don Wickoff, Joanne and Sam Del Porto, Brian Wadicka, Ann Murphy, and of course, Gail Tylec again. We have to recognize Gail Tylec. So my final thank you, of course, is to Mayor Roman, Assemblyman Conrad, and Comptroller DiNapoli. I certainly appreciate you all coming out here and supporting. And as you all know, the whole reason for this is because we really need to unify, right? It's not just about North Tonawanda. I think Michelle addressed it as well. But it's about North Tonawanda, Niagara County, Erie County, New York State as a whole, and working together to push all of us forward, right? And get out of this pandemic and look forward to so many more things that we have in our future. So thank you for all of you coming out. Thank you. Never enough thank you. Very much thank you, right? So many of you helped me win Alderman, which is fantastic, which I will be calling on all of you to help me again in the mayor's race, and many of you have stepped up and already helped, as you can see today. And as your alderman, I did things like supported our business growth in our downtown area, whether it was through grant opportunities or walkability, beautification projects, and so on. I was big on fiscal responsibility. As Tom brought up, the Fiscal Stability Committee is an oversight, right? Although it was shot down, the idea of it, right? And that's something that carries into the mayor's position. Transparency on a regular basis. I don't think I have ever missed a call, a text, an Instagram message, a Snapchat, Facebook, email. I was waiting for a carrier pigeon to drop off a note, but it hasn't happened yet. But I'm sure it will after tonight. So, and of course our weekly email blast. So if you aren't on those, we have a list of about 450 that we send out to on a weekly basis just to give you guys a heads up on what's going on in the city and not make excuses when you might not know something. So please sign up. And one of the biggest things that I was able to accomplish recently is a Climate Smart Task Force. It is a program through the DEC that goes after clean energy initiatives. And as we all know, there's a ton of money coming from the federal and state level that trickles down into communities like ours that we need to take advantage of. So this Climate Smart Task Force will go after that money, bring in grants, clean up North Tonawanda, and come up with different programs we can really look forward to. So it's fantastic. And we will continue to get money from our state officials, from people like Assemblyman Conrad, and as we all recall, Assemblyman Schimminger, who couldn't make it today, but that office has been a fantastic amount of help. I cannot appreciate it enough to have allies and friends. It's very difficult, as we all know sometimes. It can be very frustrating as a minority on the council, as you all know, and I think many of you are even more frustrated with the way some other individuals act. So, but we persevered, of course, and a lot of ideas get shot down, right? Because of politically motivated and complacent leadership that doesn't always have the public's interest in mind. And that's not right. Unlike my opponent, I don't believe in top-down leadership with one individual making all the decisions. I believe as a community, we need to work as one, giving everyone a voice, because that's how we will continue to prosper in North Tonawanda, and this is one of the main reasons why I decided to run for North Tonawanda. I'm starting to dry up a bit, but I will continue to do what I have been doing for the city with an independent voice, but in a capacity that allows me to move our city forward, of course. City needs a new type of leadership that sees the potential we have, because we have a ton of potential in North Tonawanda, and we have to provide a proactive approach. So as mayor, we'll do things like implement an open and responsible budget process to protect your tax dollars and balance our budget. Most importantly, we're going to expand environmental, commercial, and residential projects throughout the city. We're going to prioritize aging infrastructure, roads, sidewalks, water, sewer lines. We're going to ensure accessible, transparent, and accountable government, of course.
Ethics Committee.
Ethics Committee, that's right, which we will be circling back to. And continue to improve our parks, our waterfronts. That's such an asset for us. That island is going to be developed in the next decade. We need to really kick that off. It has, again, so much potential. And we're going to focus on long-term solutions, not short-term fixes. We're going to look towards the future. So, in closing, this is going to be a very difficult race, as we all know, and I'm sure we all know they're going to throw everything they can at us, right? And we have to be smarter, we have to look past it, we have to ask questions, we have to push back, because there's going to be a lot of nonsense, but we will continue to run a clean campaign. There will be no attacks from our campaign, yes, and I need your help, though. We have 4 months to go, and I need more help than ever before. You know, signs are great, but we need you to vote. Right, Tom? We need to vote. Vote, vote, vote.
Get your friends to
And
vote.
we're going to be calling on you to help walk doors. We're going to need your help passing out flyers, everything you can. You know 10 people, give them a call, get them out there, whatever you need. If you need us to get you material, if you have an hour, 1 day a week that you can go out and pass things out, we get 32,000 people in North Tonawanda, 20,000+ voters as well. So we are going to try and hit every single one of them and continue to spread our message, a positive message, so we can be successful this November. And I truly believe in our city's future, and as your mayor, I promise to always put all of you, our community members, first. I'll make informed, educated decisions, and I will ensure that the financial stability of the city happens, and that I will continue to push for a balanced government. So thank you.